All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back for another edition here of Mastery. This time we are covering the first meaty section of the book, official section. This one is on discovering your life's calling. And this is a very important section that kind of lays the tone for everything that there is to come in terms of getting value out of this book. You know, the first step in the process before, going on this journey of obtaining mastery, you got to know what to actually put your time, effort, and energy into. Let's just get right into it here. With this chapter here, the first thing that he one of the major points that he emphasizes here in the beginning is that we are all unique. And he kind of talks about, with our DNA, right? Our exact genetic makeup has never occurred before, and nor will it ever be repeated again. And then he kind of goes into the early childhood primal inclinations that, you may have experienced growing up. If you really reflect on your past, what were the things that you were naturally kind of drawn to? Because, when we're very young, we have sort of less societal influences on us, societal pressures telling us what we should do and what we should pursue, right? So a lot of the things that you're inclined to when you're a child are really primal. And, going back to the DNA thing, depending on your DNA, that's going to drive you naturally towards different things. And he provides some historical examples, of course, for this, with people in history that were great, like Leonardo da Vinci. He was naturally drawn to think in a certain way, and he naturally thought a certain way, therefore he naturally was drawn to certain things. And, pretty much everyone is the same way, like in their own unique way. And so not only does he just talk about this, he next gives you some very actionable steps that you can take. That's a nice thing about this book. Although there are a lot of historical examples and stuff, he also will, give you pretty actionable advice. So he basically has a 3-step process here that can allow you to discover your life's task. And he really emphasizes that discovering your life's task can occur at any point in your life. So don't think that you're too old to discover your life's task, and that because you haven't discovered it already and you're a certain age that it's too late for you. That is not at all the case. And the 3 steps that he had was basically the first step being that you must look inward and reconnect with your inclinations, right? We had talked, a second ago about, looking to your childhood. So if you really reflect on, the things that you were drawn to then, that is a fantastic place to start. Because it can really help steer you in the right direction on what you should pursue, right? Maybe it's not security, maybe it is, but that is something that you would have to answer for yourself. And to do that, you must first look inward, right? And then the second step is that you must look at your career path that you're already on or you are about to begin, and you must really enlarge your concept of what is work, right? And to follow this up, to explain this, he really says that, too often people make a separation in their lives between, their work life and their life outside of work. And, just compartmentalizing our lives in this manner it's really a depressing kind of mindset, because in the end, the reality is we spend a substantial part of our waking life at work. So basically, if we make our life all about just getting through work, living for the weekend, just passing the time at your 9 to 5 or whatever, and just trying to get to the weekend to have 2 days of fun, a significant amount of our lives will be completely wasted. So instead, as an alternative, what we want to do is we want to be able to view work as something more inspiring, right? As something, as part of your vocation, part of your calling, and that is really what this book is all about, right? But it all comes down to discovering your life's calling, right? And then the third step in discovering your life's task is you must view your career or your vocational path, as they describe it in this chapter, as he describes it more so in this chapter, is more of a journey with twists and turns rather than a straight line. I think, a lot of us can fall victim to that. I certainly have in the past of, expecting things to be more linear. A lot of people going for OSCP or maybe looking to level up their skills and security more generally. They'll go down this path of learning and expanding their skill set, their knowledge, and then they'll hit those roadblocks along the way, right? And instead of viewing them as sort of obstacles in the path and things to overcome, they kind of view it as failure, right? They view it as, I'm not good enough, or I can never be good enough, and everything like that. They're kind of expecting this linear trajectory towards mastery, towards greatness, towards excellence in their field. But in reality, this is not how the process actually plays out, right? More so, it's going to be, a journey with twists and turns rather than a straight line, And along that line, or kind of like branching off from that, what he really explains with it is that also, not only is it not a straight line in terms of, you're going to encounter difficulties and it's not going to be a linear progression, but at the same time, you got to understand that your initial field or position that you choose may not necessarily be the same thing as you'll be doing down the line, right? You need to allow yourself to learn more about your field and to branch out in different directions as you establish confidence and discover certain side routes that may attract you, right? And he gives a lot of historical examples of people that, they started in one area and they found that, they were more drawn to these, other specific areas, maybe completely different areas. And this can definitely, to that I would say with cybersecurity, that's fantastic, right? Because you have so many different niches that you can go down in cybersecurity, so many different paths that you can branch off into. You might start off in this offensive security space and find out that actually you're more drawn to the defensive side. Maybe you're more drawn to network monitoring or like some of the blue team type of defense stuff. And, this was just a stepping stone. Every position you have and every career move you make is kind of a stepping stone in the direction that you're ultimately going to go down, right? So you need to view it that way, right? These are great opportunities to get your feet wet, kind of whet your appetite, get you in the field. And then from there, you can really come into your own based off of your own, who you are, what your DNA is, what you're drawn to. And you can kind of discover that. You don't have to necessarily know exactly what you want to do right now. If you do, more power to you. But just getting in to the field, and then you can branch off from there. Allow yourself to. Absolutely. And then he really goes on to say that, you will recognize that you found your calling because it will appear as like a spark. It will spark that childlike sense of wonder and excitement. So if you ever experience, doing something where, especially when you lose track of time, that's always one really good indicator, doing something. But if you find that it sparks that childlike sense of wonder and excitement, that is one major indicator that you found your calling, right? And there's some really good excerpts in this chapter that I wanted to bring out here in this video. One thing that I really liked that he said was, what we lack most in this modern world is a sense of a larger purpose in our lives. And I think that's very true. You look at a lot of people nowadays and they're kind of lost. They don't really have any sense of purpose or direction in their lives. And this is a huge problem, I think, for a lot of people. Definitely let me know in the comments section below if you resonate with that. I definitely did, because before I really found my sense of purpose and direction, this was one of the big things I was lacking, I think. And if I further expand on that with this little excerpt here from the chapter, he says, in the past, it being, the larger sense of purpose to our lives, was organized religion that often supplied it. But most of us now live in a secularized world. We human animals are unique. We must build our own world. We do not simply react to events out of biological scripting, but without a sense of direction provided to us, we tend to flounder. We don't know how to fill up and structure our time. There seems to be no defining purpose to our lives. We are perhaps not conscious of this emptiness, but it infects us in all kinds of ways. I think that like really resonated with me as being very true, right? You'll find once you have your purpose and you're on your purpose, and every day you are doing, you're making progress towards that vision that you have, based off your life's calling. You just feel, entirely different. Everything is a lot, everything is a lot more, there's there's a sense of ease and lightness to everything you do when you're on your purpose. So definitely resonated with that one as well. He talks about, the more people that crowd into a particular field, the more you'll have to worry about, playing the politics and competition and all manner of other things that distract you from obtaining mastery. And when you're faced with this kind of scenario, it's best to look to niche down to a more narrow path, right? And sometimes you'll even need to create a path that is uniquely your own. One really positive side to this is us being in offensive security. There's not a whole lot of competition at the moment. Like I've said many times on this channel, there's a shortage of qualified people to fulfill these positions. But, as this area grows and, more and more people come into the field, it might be necessary to niche down. But with that being said, there's a lot of opportunities to really find your niche in this offensive security space, right? Because no one can know everything in security. I know I say this all the time. I apologize if you watch my content a lot. You've heard me say that a lot. No one will know everything in security. But with that being said, you don't need to, right? There'll be experts in different areas of security, right? You'll have your web app guys, and even within that, there'll be guys that are experts in certain web app technologies. There'll be your network security guys. There'll be your cloud security guys. There'll be, a whole manner, even as this decentralization stuff, cryptocurrency stuff, continues to mature and grow, there will be people that specialize in a serverless architecture kind of stuff and blockchain security, stuff like that. There'll be a whole manner of opportunities out there. There is no shortage of opportunities out there if, you're diligent about exploring and looking and finding what, resonates with you. So definitely we won't have to worry about this issue. And if it ever comes down to pen testing being highly contested, well, then you can just niche down into becoming an expert at a particular technology or stack of technologies. So this field has an amazing outlook when it comes to, this point that he made in the chapter. And then he proceeds to say that nothing good will ever come of deviating from your life's tasks. And he talks about even if it makes you more money, he gives some examples of people that, really came down to their life tasks. Now, another thing is, fortunately, if security, offensive security, the hacker stuff, seems to be part of your life's task, then you got the added benefit of it will make you plenty of money. There's so much opportunity in this space, not only in the corporate world, but also in the entrepreneurial space as well, to do stuff with this very high in demand, emerging field here. So absolutely, you got tremendous opportunity here. Even if you find that it's not security, if you find your calling, I will say you want to do something that will make you money. Don't ignore money. It's really important. But, even if it seems at first glance that your calling won't make you money, if you can kind of think creatively outside the box, there might be a way to really niche down, leverage the power of the internet that we have today, and make some money off of that, right? So just, think really creatively with this. No matter what your life's task is, there's probably a good way to monetize it as well, if that's a concern to you. Which it should be. Everyone should be successful and strive to be the best they possibly can, right? Now, there's another excerpt that I thought was really good. In all these chapters, he has a section called reversal. And what this is basically is kind of the exception to the rule or the counter to this, advice, right? And he says, in here, he says, some people do not become aware of inclinations or future career paths in their childhood, but instead are made painfully aware of their limitations. They're not good at what others seem to find easy or manageable. The idea of a calling in life is alien to them. In some cases, they internalize the judgments and criticisms of others and come to see themselves as essentially deficient. If they're not careful, this can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, you might not fit into society's box, right? You might not fit into, this traditional sense of, the way you think might be very different than the norm. That is not a negative thing. It can actually be a very positive thing if you manage it correctly, right? And he gives an example of, historically, Temple Grandin, which was a woman that was diagnosed with autism. She had a lot of trouble with even speaking and learning, how to speak and all that, right? Because she thought in terms of images, right? The way she saw the world and the way that her brain worked was much different than the average person, but she focused on her strengths, built them up, and was able to overcome, insane obstacles, and eventually was able to become like a college professor and do all these amazing things in her life, right? And at the very end of this section here, what he says is that when you're faced with deficiencies instead of strengths and inclination. When you're faced with deficiencies instead of strengths and inclinations, this is the strategy you must assume. Ignore your weaknesses and resist the temptation to be more like others, So instead, like Temple Grandin, direct yourself towards the small things that you are good at. Do not dream or make grand plans for the future, but instead concentrate on becoming proficient at these simple and immediate skills. This will bring you confidence and become a base from which you can expand to other pursuits. Proceeding in this way, step by step, you will hit upon your life's tasks. He says to understand, I like this part as well, understand that your life's task does not always appear to you through some grand or promising inclination. A lot of people are probably expecting that, and they might be lost as to what theirs is, right? He says that it can appear in the guise of your deficiencies, making you focus on the one or two things that you are inevitably good at. Working at these skills, you learn the value of discipline and see the rewards you get from your efforts. Like a lotus flower, your skills will expand outward from a center of strength and confidence. Do not envy those who seem to be naturally gifted. I really like this section as well. So many people are focused outwardly on other people that they appear to be naturally gifted, and they kind of ruminate and feel dumb or whatever just because they don't have the same natural talents that they appear other people have, right? You need to focus on your strengths, right? So he says, do not envy those who seem to be naturally gifted. It's often a curse, as such types rarely learn the value of diligence and focus and pay for this later in life. This strategy applies as well to any setbacks and difficulties we may experience. In such moments, it's generally wise to stick to the few things we know and do well and reestablish our confidence. That is absolutely phenomenal because just because things don't come naturally to you, that can be a strength, because that's going to require you to develop that discipline as well. In addition to the things I just mentioned, that's going to require you to really have that grit, as we talked about in a recent video, and push through those obstacles. And those are skills that you can take no matter what it is you're trying to do. Even if it's not getting good at a skill, if you're trying to get a project done, you're trying to do something is really important. Having that discipline that's how you cultivate that discipline, right? All those setbacks, all those things that were really difficult to you, and you push through and you learn them. Not only do you get the benefit of learning that skill or getting done with whatever you need to finish, you also get the added benefit of, developing this sense of discipline, and that will pay off, and that's something you can tap into whenever you need it if you really cultivate it, right? So yeah, that was this first section of Discover Your Life's Calling. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the content so far. If so, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button as well. That will definitely help get this message out there to people who might need help in discovering their life's calling. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.